So when a young man is dating and he wants to get married, well, when that young man happens to be your son-in-law or your future son-in-law, you want to make sure that he's as ready for marriage as possible. So when Chase came to me and asked me to marry Hadassah, my favorite and only daughter, I said, that's a great idea, totally approved, but here I want to give you a stack of books that I wrote because Hadassah is going to think this is what marriage is about, so you need to be on the same page. One of the top books I gave him is the one we're talking about today, Intimacy, a 100-Day Guide to Lasting Relationships. So I want you to give a welcome to Chase Cocking. Nice to see you, Chase.
It's great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Now, when I gave you that book, I don't know what your thoughts were in your mind, because I'm not sure you were expecting a stack of books. You're probably thinking, well, he's going to say yes or no.
Right.
But I gave you Intimacy, a 100-Day Guide to Lasting Relationships. And I gave that to you because I wanted you to have a really good foundation for marriage. So tell me what some of the things that you took away from the book, and then maybe as we get into it, maybe what you actually applied and what was really helpful.
Right. So there was great value in that book, not just as a book for marriages that are going on right now, but also as a book for premarital kind of preparation, like you're saying, laying that foundation. One of the core concepts that really spoke to me was you talk about in the book the difference between an emotional-based relationship or a principle-based relationship.
Now you have to explain that because they don't know what you're talking about.
Yep, absolutely. So
they didn't read the book yet.
Yeah.
Get the book. Okay.
An emotional-based relationship is when you just do whatever you want to do based on how you're feeling. Sounds a lot like how we function as a society these days. And we take that into our marriages, and it's damaging because then we decide that we don't have to pray. We don't have to be financially responsible. We don't have to be in agreement before we do things if we don't feel like it.
Right.
And so what I really like is that you call that out and you say that, no, we need to have principles for a relationship, and you guide people through defining what those principles are. Where even when you don't feel like praying, you pray anyway because it's important for the relationship.
And that's really important because God is a God of principle, line upon line, precept upon precept. And you want your marriage to look like God, like it has order. God is a God of order. He's not a God of chaos. And if you're emotionally based, like Chase is talking about, you're probably having a lot of chaos, and this might help you stabilize that. What's another thought or idea that kind of came out of there for you?
Yeah. You talk about the levels of maturity, and you've got the holistic approach to a person where you can look at them sexually, financially, emotionally, physically, and the different parts of them, and how if you look at each part, there's a level of maturity tied to that part. Somebody can be a sexual child, but can be a physical adult. Somebody can be a sexual child, but be an emotional adult, or any of the combinations of those ways. And so you do a good job of saying, hey, this isn't about looking at your partner and trying to figure out where they are maturity-wise, but it's that introspective look, which is really good for a premarital or even a marital kind of relationship where can I improve individually? Because if two people are coming together and improving to their best ability, the marriage is the one that wins.
Yeah, that's really important because, if you're married and one of you is immature in any area, maybe one of you is a financial child and one of you is a financial adult, or one of you is socially a child, all your friends happen to be your spouse's friends because you don't know how to make friends. It really helps you to look at that and go, okay, where do I need to mature so that the marriage can be better? Because if your spouse is carrying you, okay, maybe for the first year or two you can get away with that, but eventually it's going to build hurt, anger, and resentment. And that doesn't have to happen, especially if you can deal with it before you get married or early in the marriage. Now, you've been married for a while. How long have you been married?
2 years at this point.
2 years, almost
a little
3.
Short. Little short of 2.
A little short of 2, okay. So what's some of the principles that actually you found actually worked or were helpful, right? It's like, well, that really worked.
Yeah. Well, obviously the ones that I already shared, they really worked. But what I like that you do in the book is you don't tell people this is the one way to be. You talk about like the systems of government for your marriage, and the principle that's sticking out to me is coming to an agreement, right? You don't act before you've talking with your spouse and come to an agreement. You don't go forward and make unilateral decisions, whether you're the man or the woman.
Right.
That's not healthy for a relationship.
It goes bad.
Absolutely.
It's like, what did you do? I just ruined your life.
Yeah, deal with it, right? That's not going to go well. And even if your spouse was gracious in that, there's going to be some resentment that builds up about that. So, one, being in agreement absolutely is something that stuck out to me. And two, finding your own system for a marriage, finding
Mm,
what works for you.
mhm,
What works for another couple might not work for the two of you guys,
mm.
but you
But
really
being in
enable
agreement,
people to be in agreement
to be in agreement.
about coming to their system.
Yeah, and that's really, really so important. If you're married and especially if you're hitting the same wall again and again, you're not in agreement. And having a way that you can uh, to resolve that, work through that, and share your feelings about that. One of the things I don't know if we talked about the money manager in the Intimacy 100 Guide and how different people handle money. How was that chapter for you, or how did that work? You got work that out.
Yeah, obviously there's definitely some challenges when two people are coming together to be one flesh,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
two individual beings. So once again, it's just the power of being able to find agreement in that,
Mm,
where I can be this one way,
mm,
and my wife can be this other way.
mm,
But as long as we can come to some sort of, not even compromise all of the
mm.
time, but agreement,
Absolutely.
we can make it work.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. See, your marriage is more than just, hey, I said I do. Um, you have to figure out how to work together. Marriage is a team sport. Who are you guys together spiritually? Are you spiritual children? You don't pray? Or, are you adolescents? It's my way or the highway. The Bible says, and I'm going to beat. If you got to use the Bible to beat your wife, okay, you're not leading her. Okay, but it teaches you how you can walk through these various parts of marriage and be successful. Now, encourage people who are pre-married about this book, and then I'm going to
Yes.
come back and talk to y'all.
Uh, you don't have training for this in school. You don't have training for this from your parents. You'll model your parents' relationship, and your spouse will try to do the same in a premarital relationship going into marriage. So I encourage you to get this book so that you can define what your marriage is going to look like. You can figure out what you're going to agree to.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage you, do this as a ministry to the premarital people. As a church, buy them. Anybody can buy 10 books for the people who are getting married next few months in your church and hand it to them and say, we love you. It's really important we have healthy marriages in the churches today.